Hello, everyone. Welcome to the CTSI BERD seminar series. My name is Jay Zhu. I'm a faculty member at the Department of Public Health Sciences at Penn State. And this CTSI BERD seminar is co-hosted by me and Dr. Liang Kong. Just as usual, I will just go through some basic logistics at the beginning. This Zoom seminar is being recorded automatically. All the attendees are muted except for panelists. If you have any question during the seminar, please feel free to submit your questions using the Q&A box. Or if it's at the end of the seminar, you can raise your hand and we can let you speak. If you are registered for this seminar, you will actually receive the slides, the recording link, and the feedback survey afterwards. You can register for future seminars at ctsi.psu.edu and then go to research support, go to seminars. For this semester, there are 2 more seminars. And our speaker today are Paula Venezia-Moulton and Amy Machalinsky from the Department of Public Health Sciences at Penn State. Paula and Amy are the managers of data management and application development units, respectively, in the Department of PHS. They both have more than 15 years extensive experience consulting and collaborating with clinical and basic science researchers, research staff, biostatisticians, project managers, research administrators, and IT experts to provide data management support and develop a customized system support for many NIH-funded research networks and investigator-initiated studies. Today, they will talk about how to build data management applications for clinical research using RedCAP and DMS, data management system. Welcome, Paula and Amy. I will turn the screen to you. You can get started.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Let me share my screen so we can get us started. Okay, can you see the presentation?
Yeah, we can see you speak.
Okay, thank you for introducing us to the audience. Today, we would like to present about 2 data management applications that are currently used by our department during the implementation of different types of clinical studies. This presentation is going to be divided into 2 sections. The first part is going to be focused on RedCAP and the different features that are available for investigators conducting clinical research. And the second half of the presentation is going to be focused on the department's data management system. I will get us started with RedCAP, and then Amy will continue with the description of the department's data management system. So what is RedCAP? RedCAP stands for Research Electronic Data Capture. It's a web-based application that was created at Vanderbilt University back in 2004. Since then, it has grown into a commonly used application for clinical research and the management of clinical data that is currently utilized by multiple organizations across the country. What makes this application so attractive is that it's a secure web application that can be used not only for building online surveys and databases, but also for managing the data as it's being collected. In addition to that, RedCAP is an application that is free of cost to nonprofit organizations such as Penn State, who are members of the RedCAP consortium. Another feature that makes this application attractive is that it's relatively user-friendly and offers a secure method that, even though allows for multiple modifications, it also provides a robust structure for data collection. I like to highlight some of the features related to security and data integrity that make RedCAP many times the application of choice when conducting clinical research. One of the features is that RedCAP allows the authentication of each of the individuals who have access to the database. In order for an individual to have access to a RedCAP project, that person needs to have an institutionally sponsored account with a unique combination of username and password. And only individuals that are granted access to a specific project will have access to the information that will be contained within a RedCAP database. In addition to that, administrators of the database have also control over the type of access that each individual has to the information within the database. These are role-based user rights, which can be customized based on the needs of the role of the person who is giving access to the database. Another feature that helps us preserve the security and integrity of the data is the ability to create data access groups. This feature is particularly useful when RedCAP is being used in multi-site clinical trials, because it allows us to limit an individual's access to the records that are generated within their own site or institution. Other features that I like to highlight are the login and audit trail, which is the capability that RedCAP has to track and register any activity that occurs within the project, and automatically keeps a record of this activity that can be then retrieved from the login tab. In addition to this, RedCAP has the ability to log the records. This could be completed in order to log a whole instrument in order to prevent unauthorized or accidental modifications of the data once the information entered by the research staff or the participant directly has been collected. How RedCAP relates to the Department of Public Health Sciences. Our department has over 25 years of experience acting as the data coordinating center for multiple research networks. Some of those networks rely on RedCAP for the collection and management of the data, while others rely on the utilization of our own data management system, and others rely on the utilization of both RedCAP and the DMS system. Because of this, we have a unique combination of experience and expertise that allow us to support multiple types of research projects with the utilization of RedCAP or other platforms for data management. As an example, we are able to provide support during the development and implementation of RedCAP projects by customizing the application to the project needs. The objectives of this project could be clinical research, even which could be observational or experimental, behavioral or psychological research studies. It could be the utilization of RedCAP to create a data repository, or also projects that will focus on operational support or quality improvement. And we have experience completing all of these types of projects based on the RedCAP application. This support that we're able to provide can occur throughout the implementation of the study. During the development process, which is when we are creating the different data collection instruments within the application, testing and revising the project setup and design, and also during production, which is the status in which we are collecting real data, either through surveys that are sent directly to the participants or from the research staff entering the data into case report forms. During this status, during the production, is when the real data collection is going to occur. So in this phase, we are able to provide support in order to query the sites regarding any issues with the data, making sure that validation rules and quality rules are being implemented, and that actions are being taken to protect and preserve the quality and security of the data. When working with RedCAP, we also are able to create two main types of data collection forms. And we have the expertise to assist investigators with not only the transformation of paper forms into electronic data capture forms, but also with surveys. Both of these methods of data collection are available within RedCAP. Case report forms, as you can see on the screen, is a method of data collection that relies on the creation of data entry screens to which the research staff will have access to in order to be able to enter a participant's data, either during real time or transcribing it from a paper form into the electronic data entry screen. In this case, the research staff will have access to the RedCAP project, to the RedCAP project with the role that is assigned to that person, and will be able to enter the information in the form connected to that record and save it so it's linked to the other pieces of information that are collected as part of the study. The other method of data collection and other type of data collection instruments that we could create are surveys. The main difference between the case report forms and surveys is that The utilization of surveys allows investigators to collect data directly from the participants. In this case, the individuals reporting their outcomes do not need to have a RedCap account. The way that it works is that a link, either a public link or a unique link, is created that is then shared with the participants so they can self-report their data. And once they submit the responses, their information is sent securely to RedCAP and added to the record. Besides the different data collection instruments, we are also able to assist with project setup. So we can accommodate different project types. It could be a cross-sectional data collection of survey responses. It could be a longitudinal project, either observational or experimental, that will collect data over time through multiple events. It could be a single site or multi-site study, and a study that perhaps might require a single arm or multiple arms to be implemented. All of this functionality is available within RedCAP. So when we are working with a longitudinal project, RedCAP allows us to create the different events and arms that are going to be used to organize the data collection and management. RedCAP events are the different points in time or events through which a participant is going to go throughout the duration of a longitudinal study. On the screen, you can see an example of a screenshot that is showing a study in which you have multiple arms, one for the screening process, a second arm for the control group, a third arm for the treatment group. Within each of these arms, RedCAP has the functionality to support a different schedule of events, which allows for each group of participants to follow its own regime throughout the duration of the study. It is also possible to create links across arms. So, for example, if a participant that is screened then is allocated to the control group, we can link that record from the screening into the control groups to prevent the duplication of that record within the same project. In addition, once you have created a longitudinal project with multiple events and arms, you also have the capability to map the different data collection instruments to a particular event. This is particularly useful when you have multiple groups, each of them has a different schedule of events or different requirements to complete throughout the duration of the study, because it allows us to assign each group with their corresponding data collection instrument based on their own schedule of events. An optional module that works well with longitudinal studies that can also be enabled is the scheduling module. This can be particularly useful for studies in which there are multiple treatment groups, with each of them having a different schedule of events. And it can benefit project management activities. The main difference between the previous screenshot, which is the events and arms without the scheduling module enabled, is that once you enable the scheduling module, you are actually able to determine the offset range that is allowable for each of the events to occur. So under the days of offset, you will enter the ideal time frame for each of these events, and then the offset range would be the acceptable deviation from that day, which can be particularly useful when to address or account for any deviations that could occur due to holidays, weekends, or any delays in treatment for reasons that could be applicable to your study. Another advantage of enabling the scheduling module is that it gives the research team the ability to access and create an automatically generated schedule for each of the participants within the study. This schedule is created based on the days offset that were defined, as well as the offset range, and it's created based on the occurrence of the first visit or first event for each participant. The calendar that is, or the schedule of events that is automatically created highlights any holidays in red, as you can see on the screen. So that way, you have the ability to identify any potential days that might need to be rescheduled based on what the information that is provided. If no changes are needed, then you could just click on the create schedule, and that will create a PDF that would be then stored in the participants file and or share with them, so they have a reference of their expected or projected schedule during their participation in the study. In addition to that, if you enable the scheduling module, RedCAP automatically populates those events on the calendar tab that RedCAP has within its default functionality. So you could have a view by month, for example, of all the upcoming events per participant ID, in addition to any other events or meetings that you might want to add manually to the project calendar. Another module that we have experience with, and that is commonly used with RedCAP, is the randomization module. The randomization module has the capability of randomly assigning participants to specific study groups based on the randomization template that is uploaded into RedCAP. Once you have identified the different criteria that are going to be utilized to randomize the participants and have created the data entry form for the randomization step, you can use that information to create a blank template that then can be filled by your statistician with the different treatment allocation, and then uploaded into RedCAP. RedCAP requires you to have two tables, one that will be used during the development or testing of the project, and then a second table that will be uploaded during the production status. Within the department, we have a group of biostatisticians that are able to provide support with the creation of this template. So if at any point when we're working with you, we identify the need of that expertise, we can connect you to the right person in order to get you the support needed to create this template correctly. This randomization can be stratified by subgroups or different characteristics of the participant, as well as by each group or site as needed. Within the randomization module, based on the user rights that you give to each of the members of the research team, you can actually blind or not the individuals to the randomization form. And you can also restrict who are the individuals who have the capability of randomizing the participants. In order to protect the data, once the randomization group is assigned, the field for the randomization, the randomization button that you will see on the screen becomes read-only, so it cannot be modified afterwards. Another functionality of RedCAP is the ability to create reports. The reports can be customized to display the data within the project based on the variables that you have within your data collection forms. As an example here is just a simple demographics report that is showing the different participants by gender and race. This again can be made much more complex and informative depending on the type of information that you want to be displayed. And it can be customized to include data from the entire project or for a specific event. There are different filters that you can implement besides that can allow you to either hide or show the information that you would like to be displayed in the report. Once a report is created, it will be saved under the Reports tab as an hyperlink, and it can be rerun and updated as needed, as well as edited if needed. The record status dashboard is the display that you will see with the participants that are already in the database. It also shows the status of the different data collection instruments that participants are expected to complete at each event during the follow-up. This is an example of a longitudinal study in which you can see the participant status for those within the control group. RedCAP has a legend or status icons that are color-coded to indicate the status of each of the forms to facilitate the assessment of the status of each participant. What you are seeing on the screen is the default dashboard, but you also have the capability to create a customized dashboard. So, for example, if you want to only see females or only see participants after a certain point of time, you could create customized dashboards, which will be displayed next to the dashboard display drop-down menu, and it will be an option for you to select the view that you might want. In addition to the functionality that I described, which is available within RedCAP, you can also combine the utilization of RedCAP with statistical software for data analysis. This can be done through the RedCAP data export. The data that is collected in RedCAP can be exported in multiple formats, including comma delimited, SPSS, R, etc. The data could be manipulated so that it's de-identified in order to protect the individual's functionality. And in addition to have the capability of exporting data, RedCAP also allows for data to be imported into the database, which can be completed through the RedCAP data import template, or with assistance for the application programming interface. So the application programming interface is what allows programs to upload or download data to and from RedCAP. And this could be data that could exceed what we are capable to do using the RedCAP template, or when we have large amounts of data that need to be imported. In order to do that, to do this, there is a process that must be followed in order to request a token from the RedCAP project administrators, and then there is a process to be completed in order for this to be implemented. But it's something that is doable, and it can be a useful tool when you are retrieving data from external databases that you want to combine into your RedCAP project, or if you have multiple imports that you are going to be conducting on an ongoing basis. And we have utilized this feature for multiple projects for investigators from multiple departments. And that's what I have for you regarding RedCAP. We will have time for some questions at the end, but now I'd like to let Amy continue the presentation and cover the section related to our DMS application.
Yeah.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm just getting a lay of the land with the shared screen here for a quick moment. Okay, so I manage our applications development team within Public Health Sciences, and Public Health Sciences has been a data coordinating center for NIH-funded research networks for over 25 years. These networks execute multi-site clinical trials, and the sites mostly across the US, but sometimes we've had some in Canada or in the UK, or most recently we've picked up some in Australia as well. But they use our custom-built data management application that we've developed and enhanced over the years. We've used the system for protocols that have had as few as 5 sites and others that have exceeded 30. And it's really a full-blown clinical trials application. So within the system, we have modules that are for participant data capture, data quality, clinical trial management, and then some additional miscellaneous modules that each protocol can kind of custom pick and choose what they're going to use. And then we have the ability to add some hooks in here to add modules that are specific to a study's need or reporting that they need and so forth. So I'm going to go through a little bit of the functionality of the application. There is a lot of overlap between what the DMS system can do and what RedCAP can do. The benefits to RedCAP are really that the users are able to get into the system and hands-on build things at virtually no expense to themselves other than the time that they need to build the system. And RedCAP can do a lot of things and most of the time can do much of what any protocol needs, if not everything a protocol needs. The reverse of that would be the DMS system. So there's a lot more hands-on programming and custom functionality that gets built into the system. So it requires a team within the Public Health Sciences to configure it and get it up and running. So there's a significant cost difference between using DMS, but the benefit to that is that we can make the system do almost anything that the protocol wants and is able to have the resources for us to do. So that's kind of a quick overview of the two systems and what we use them for within the Department of Public Health Sciences. So this is an example of a login screen for one of our asthma studies. And we have two versions of the DMS. One that we call DMS as a whole, and that one is set up to be Part 11 compliant for FDA. The other version is DMS Lite, and really the only difference to it is that when we are developing things and testing things, it's the level of documentation that we go to and the proof that we capture should we ever be audited to show that our system is fully intact and has all of the proper security controls in place and that everything has been tested to do exactly what it's supposed to do, and nobody else has been able to touch it or change anything. So the DMS is a roles-based system, and it is set up to allow a host of different users to use the system based on their needs. So we have roles for a site coordinator, for data managers, project managers, administrators, scientific coordinators, which is kind of a project coordinator, but more kind of a project manager and a statistician combined. Our investigators, we have a role for just those who need access to documents, a role for participants to respond to surveys directly, a reimbursement user who is kind of our finance guru, lab techs, and monitors. And as I mentioned, there's a series of modules, and each module performs a specific function within the system. And each user, each of those roles that I just went through, is able to access specific modules and specific functions within those modules based on their needs. So we have a host of participant data modules, which I'll go through. So enrollment, a visit scheduler, 3 modules for capturing data, and then a sample tracking module. Our enrollment module is used to allow participants to be entered into the system once, and the module collects data that is only going to be captured once per participant, even if that participant re-enrolls into a study, or if the network is performing more than one study, if that participant was going to enroll in multiple studies. And the purpose of this module is to make sure that we're not collecting the same data elements more than once, and to make sure that we have an identifier, which we call our master ID, that we can link data from study to study for the same participant, or if they would re-enroll within that same study. Our visit scheduler is kind of similar to what RedCAP had used, is configured to allow each study to identify the visit structure with the visit IDs and phone contacts that may occur, when their ideal date is going to be, and when the lower window and upper windows are going to be. So the coordinators are able to print this out, write in what the scheduled date is for the participant, and provide this report for the participant, as well as keep it for themselves in clinic to enter into the system. All of this information is stored in the database, and we use it to determine if a visit's been missed or skipped, or if anything occurred outside of the visit window, which may result in a protocol deviation or violation. The 3 modules that we have for entry are all very similar. And so there's a sample entry screen here of what this looks like. The participant data entry screens allow the site coordinators to complete paperless data entry. These forms are completed at each visit, and they are well defined, and each of the forms in the visit are displayed on the left-hand side of the screen. Each form captures the location of where the form was completed, a visit date, and the user who completed the form. So the user would be the coordinator ID that we identify as a 4-digit ID. We have branching logic built into the form that executes in real time for skip patterns. And data is checked during entry for missing or illogical responses that require the coordinator to correct the data or indicate that an error is unresolvable. In addition, if a form has source documentation available, this can be uploaded to the system and then later verified by a data manager or monitor for accuracy. Each protocol can be configured to allow participants to read email invitations to complete surveys, and these surveys then can be monitored by the site coordinators or the DCC staff within our department to make sure that everything's being answered appropriately. When a participant enters the screen through the survey module, they will not see the left-hand side of the screen. They will just see, or the form missing or the generate PDF button, they will just see the entry screen to respond to questions. And then finally, lab users see similar screens, and they are able to enter a particular form for all participants for a specific lab result, rather than all forms for a specific site. So most of our users are assigned one or more sites that they may see and enter data for. But the lab results individuals typically want to enter all the lab data because those samples are being shipped to the lab for everybody. And then our sample tracking module is used to create and maintain an inventory of samples that are collected throughout a study. Our coordinator users are able to generate and print labels for each type of sample. And that when that sample is collected, the sample is scanned into the module and made available for shipment to a lab. So the labels that get generated have a barcode on them that the users will use to scan those into the system. The system will allow the coordinators to easily create shipments and generate a shipment manifest, and tracking information is entered into the module, and the receiving lab is notified when that shipment is coming. Once the shipment is received, our receiving lab then scan that sample into the shipment to indicate that the sample has been received and do a reconciliation. And data within the sample tracking module is easily linked back to our lab results data to verify that results were received. We have 4 modules that we identify as quality modules. And our first one is for certification. So we use the certification module to create certification types that individuals are required to achieve. So such as GCP certification, or being certified in a spirometry procedure, or having protocol training. And once an individual has received that proper training or competency and provided documentation to us at the DCC, we will add them into the module as certified as of a certain date. And we use that 4-digit code that I pointed out on the participant data screen to track their certification. So we can say that anybody filling out forms within the study needs to be trained on the protocol. So if their 4-digit ID is going onto a data entry form, but they're not in the certification module as having protocol training, we will get an alert on that we can then follow up and potentially assign either a protocol violation or a deviation. The alerts that I talked about with the certification errors are types of data entry errors that we would see within our error tracking module. And errors can be identified in real time during entry, or these can be identified nightly through batch validation. And our data management team will use the module to identify unresolved errors that they can query out to the sites and ask for more information so that we can mark them unresolvable, or that we can make a data correction or have the sites make a data correction to make the data more accurate. So I actually jumped ahead here. The error tracking module is what I just described. The validation system is really the process in which we identify those errors. And then finally, any errors that come up can be identified as a potential protocol violation or deviation. So for example, if an eligibility form indicates that a participant is ineligible, but they proceed to go and be randomized anyhow, this would signal a protocol violation in almost all of our studies. And so the error tracking system that I previously talked about will signal this to a data manager and allow them to forward that error to the protocol compliance module and assign those errors to either a protocol violation report, a deviation report, or an exception report. And an example of an exception would be if our sites reached out to us and said that they had a participant who needed to come in one day beyond a visit window, and we would grant that approval. We would attract those types of exceptions on this report. So some of our additional modules that we use for clinical trial management. The first one that we use is the documents module. And that is set up so that we can upload, it's kind of similar to a OneDrive. So we can build a folder structure and post and distribute documents. Every folder level can have permissions set either at a group level or an individual level. And we use this document management system to upload anything from informed consent templates to MOPS, case report forms, recruitment materials, agendas and minutes, and so forth. Each document within the system is versioned, and we're able to track who last modified a document and when that modification was incorporated. Our drug tracking module allows our project management staff to monitor blinded drug supplies across our multiple sites. And the user is able to prepare shipments to those sites, mark those shipments as received, mark drugs as available or destroyed, and set a priority for assignment of those drugs to a participant based on upcoming expiration dates. And we use this module to generate pharmacy documentation for site-specific memos so that we can easily identify that expirations coming up, which sites have drugs that are affected by that expiration date, and generate all of the documentation that needs to be sent up to those sites. So I think we've primarily used this for drug tracking, but we could use this for other inventory management of other supplies as well. Each study that uses DMS typically has a custom-built randomization module that's built based on study-specific strata and supports both single and double-blinded studies. The module confirms the eligibility of the participant before proceeding with randomization. So that's typically a very custom coding based on the eligibility requirements of that study. And the module is loaded with a randomization scheme that our statisticians create ahead of time, and we use that to assign a treatment arm to the participant. After that initial assignment is done to a treatment arm, we use the module then to assign the appropriate drug IDs for dispensation. So for many of our studies, at every visit that they see the coordinator, they bring in drugs that are remaining from their last time, so we can do a compliance check, and then we will reissue new drugs for them as they go forward. And so we rely on the module to identify the proper treatment arm and where those drugs are located, and the drug ID is assigned for the participant so that that order can be sent to the research pharmacy. And then our last module is our reimbursement module, which was developed to provide a reimbursement process that pays our clinical sites for their patient care costs. So this module was built to compare data that's entered into the participant data module against the billing structure that gets created within reimbursement. And we assign a monetary value to each visit and assign which forms are required for that payment, so that when the invoices are generated, the system's automatically identifying which participants met the requirements for reimbursement, and it builds the invoice so that it's all encompassing. That invoice is reviewed by two individuals, typically the finance manager and the PI, and then submitted through the finance group for payment. This is the last module that I have to really go through for the DMS system. Each of these can be customized or modified based on each of the study needs. And we've even gone so far with some of our systems to incorporate code and data from the DMS system into the RedCAP system for the purposes of using RedCAP for text messaging. So Paula talked about the RedCAP API. And our programming team has a significant amount of experience at this point using the RedCAP API, either to pull data for programming purposes or to push data in from other sources. So if there's ever a need for to enhance functionality that maybe RedCAP can't do for you, or if RedCAP can't do for you, I would invite you to reach out to me and see if there's something that my team can do for you to bring RedCAP to a full product that you need, or if there are bigger studies with more sites and potentially more participants that DMS might be a good fit for, we would love to talk with you as well. So I will stop sharing at this point and open it up for questions.
Thank you very much, Amy and Paula, for this very nice introduction to DMS and RedCAP. Still remember the cigarette management system that your team built for the Penn State T course to manage those research cigarettes. It's very impressive. And also, as a statistician, I use RedCAP almost on a weekly basis. That's a must-have system for my research. Let's see if our audience have any question. If you have any question, please go ahead, post on the Q&A box, or if you want to speak, we can do that too.
Yeah, so as Jay mentioned, we built a custom application for our T-Course grant. And so if there is something that you need that you just haven't found a fit for, we would be very happy to consult with you as well and see if there's something that we can either take something that we already have and kind of clone it and modify it to meet your needs, or see if there's a different solution for you.
Yeah, that's something that the RedCAP cannot do directly, or is like something, if you do it in RedCAP, it's very complicated, right? Like to manage those research cigarette inventory and also the distribution. So it's actually more cost effective to use the DMS.
So I see a question here about.
Oh yeah, the Terry.
The biggest challenge to getting our full DMS Part 11 compliant. This was a significant undertaking for our department. And there's really two components to it. So the first component was making sure that the core functionality with DMS, the modules themselves, are Part 11 compliant. And then when we build the system specific for a research protocol, we're putting case report forms and validation checks in there that are all unique to the research study. All of that needs to be Part 11 compliant as well. So if we were comparing this, we'd be saying for RedCAP, the RedCAP system would need to be Part 11 compliant, and then all of the screens that you build and all of the functionality that you build as a user would need to be RedCAP Part 11 compliant as well. So it was a significant undertaking, and I'm going to say it probably took us about 1.5 years of going back and retroactively validating our core modules and then our research studies. So it is a significant amount of documentation, a significant amount of security controls, making sure that when you test something, you need evidence that you've tested it. So we are actually recording our testing through Zoom videos and keeping those recordings so that we can prove that we are doing that we're not just putting it down on paper and saying we're doing it. And then any change that we make to the system has to go through the same amount of testing. So we actually worked with an external consultant to go through this. And I mean, that's really a high level, here's kind of what we did. It gets into a whole lot more detail. And if you'd like to have a discussion about that, I would be more than happy to do so.
Okay, Terry? Your question?
Sure. Yeah, thank you. Very nice presentation. So Amy, I'm just, I'm curious because I came here from Yale, and at Yale, they were really big into RedCAP also, and they were so gung-ho and enthusiastic, and you folks seem to share that enthusiasm. So I imagine you go to the national meetings every year, and it's supposed to be a really nice community, right, of RedCAP users around the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the consortium continues to grow over the years, and I think one of the features that makes RedCAP so attractive is the fact that, as Amy mentioned, it can be very low cost, and it allows for the user to have more control over the creation of the data collection forms. So for projects that are limited by their financial resources, RedCAP is a very attractive tool. It has limitations though. For example, although RedCAP is HIPAA compliant, it's not Part 11 compliant. So if a research project funding or organization requires them to have that level of compliance, RedCAP wouldn't be the application of choice. In that regard, the DMS application would be the appropriate tool among the tools that we have available within our department. But with that, of course, it comes an increased cost for all the programming and all the support that is needed in order to get a project up and running using that application instead of RedCAP.
Oh, okay. That was kind of my follow-up question.
Mm-hmm.
What are the limitations? Are there security risks with RedCAP since it's so kind of open source? And it sounds like DMS is maybe the more secure, more expensive fallback or alternative that you go to when RedCAP is not the most appropriate.
That's, I think, what, at least within our department, that's what we're able to offer. Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's to say,
Mm-hmm.
I don't consider RedCAP to be insecure.
No, it's not.
By any means. It's just the level of requirements that come with Part 11 compliance is really steep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the fact that RedCAP gives the user so much control makes it more difficult to bring up to the level of Part 11 compliance, because in order to do that, each project almost would have to undergo its own review and process in order to become compliant, because every feature that is enabled or utilized by one project is not necessarily going to be used by another one. So the level of customization and flexibility that RedCAP provides to the user makes it difficult to leave it to that level of compliance that our application has.
Okay, but I think the first question, and I wasn't fully grasping it, was that if you put in the time and effort, you can work with RedCAP to become Part 11 compliant. It's just, it sounds like it's quite labor intensive.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, and I would say that without the RedCAP team's support in doing that, I don't think you can consider RedCAP compliant.
Correct.
Because while you can have things in place for your protocol, they need to have things in place for the application as a whole. So there's two parts to it.
Yeah, because we don't have control on what happens behind the screen at the level of the college IT and the RedCAP administrator. We only have control as users. So that limits our ability to ensure compliance at all the layers that is required to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? See in the Q&A. There's another question in the Q&A from team. Paula and Amy, are you able to read the team's question?
So the DMS application is so far only used within our department, within public health sciences. And we have, I think we have 7 or 8 networks operating in that system now. RedCAP probably has thousands.
Yeah. Yeah, RedCAP, I mean, any individual with a RedCAP account sponsored by Penn State, in theory, could create its own project and utilize it for their study. So the number of investigators that might be using it could be much bigger than the number of projects that we as a department provide support to. So yeah, it's much more widely utilized.
And over the years, we've had different iterations of our system. So we've been using our system for probably 28-ish years now, and we've probably done 30 to 40 protocols. Most of our protocols tend to be multi-year studies.
Yeah, and our staff within the department is trained and capable of providing RedCAP, data management services using both applications. So either RedCAP, the DMS application, or both. We all have the expertise to work within the two systems.
And is it true that at Penn State, all the clinical trials, the PI is required to use RedCAP to do the data collection? I mean, at least, or maybe if it's in like a higher level, then use the DMS.
It's the recommendation. The recommended. Yeah, okay. But it depends, because depending on the nature of the clinical trial, there might be other applications that are recommended. For example, within the Cancer Institute, Encore is a data management system that they use. So it depends on the nature of the study and the resources that could be available within a department. But the recommendation, the overall recommendation from the IRB and RQA would be RedCAP.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I have one more quick question for the API for RedCAP, because I know some students, some studies, they use a wearable device, like they use a cell phone to collect the data. And is it possible that the cell phone application to connect with the RedCAP to let the data sent to RedCAP automatically?
It is possible. It would all depend on the nature of the data that needs to be transmitted, but it's doable. Okay. And if there is any additional programming or functionality that might be needed in order to complete that process, that's something that usually Amy's team can assist us with.
Yeah. I would think if the wearable was actually going to connect to a site directly and push that to RedCAP, you'd be relying on that vendor be willing to do that. Otherwise, we would need to kind of be an intermediate where we're getting the data from the vendor and pushing it through the API.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you both. very much. All right, I think that's the end of today's seminar. We still have two more webinars for the rest of this semester, and I hope to see some of you in about 2 weeks. And happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Bye.
having us.
Thank you.
Bye.